So hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 234 today of Level Up. 60 minutes, of course, of live Q&A where your questions really do drive the show. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you may, of course, find out so much more about what we do in our channel. So do give this video a like and subscribe to find out everything that's going on in APMG International. Ella today is over in the social chat. So if you're joining us live on LinkedIn or on YouTube, do introduce yourselves, please, in the chat. Let her know your name and, of course, the city from where you're joining. She's going to post some links in so that you can vote up the questions that you would most like answered. And, of course, for you to be able to add your own as well. If your questions are selected, then your name's going to appear at the credits at the end of the show. So get your questions in early and stay with us to see all of that happening. Projects, programs, and portfolios are, of course, instrumental ways in which organizations deliver innovation, make changes, and really go to market and do things differently. And the team at the very epicenter of these are those working within the PMO, from working on resourcing and reporting through communication and governance. There are many roles and many different disciplines involved. The PMO improves outcomes, I think it's fair to say, and reduces time to value. So what are the career opportunities available in a modern PMO, the roles and responsibilities and so on? Let's explore them today together. Helping us out is an expert panel, so we'll jump straight in and meet them all. Lela Machaidze is an international consultant and co-founder of the PMI Tbilisi chapter. As an accomplished practitioner in project and program management, Lela has a deep interest and expertise in artificial intelligence and works with her clients around the world to deliver meaningful insights and better outcomes. Welcome back to Level Up, Lela.
Thank you, Nick. Hello, everybody, and thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Also rejoining today is Eileen Roden, a familiar face, I think, to many of the Level Up community. Eileen is the co-founder of the professional body for PMOs, the House of PMO, and also of the popular PMO competency framework that goes alongside that. With a lifelong passion for all things PMO, Eileen is a fellow of the Association for Project Management here in the UK and a regular keynote speaker at conferences. Welcome back to Level Up, Eileen.
I'm always pleased to be here, Nick, and talking about my favourite subject, so would hate to have missed it.
Thank you so much indeed. Vincent Lens is a lead trainer with the Capgemini Academy in the Netherlands, where he specialises in a wide range of project management methods and approaches, techniques, and so on. He's worked with both corporate and the SME markets, and he brings a pragmatic and experienced approach to helping clients solve real business problems through excellence in the delivery of projects, programs, and portfolios. Welcome back to Level Up, Vincent. Great to see you.
Thank you very much, Nick, and thanks for having me. Hope to learn a lot from all the other panelists, and I hope to share some good knowledge from my side. And of course, PMO is the best job that you can have.
It really is, isn't it? There's something about this. This PMO community is just outstanding in elevating people, helping others to understand the nuance as well as the science and the techniques and so on. So I'm really, really looking forward to learning so much more today. Mark Rosner joins us. He's the founder and principal consultant over at Sunrise Path LLC, who focus on project management in the healthcare sector. Now, throughout his professional life, he's been an active contributor to communities, and he now shares his experiences generously with other people, mentoring, coaching others, helping people who are early career elevate themselves to be able to learn from others. So welcome to Level Up, Mark. Really great to have you on the panel today.
Thank you, Nick. It's very much my pleasure. As they say on the radio, long-time listener, first-time caller. Really excited to join this amazing group of panelists.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Now, Mark's referring there, of course, to his other role, which has been built over many weeks, where he's been as part of the online community and asking questions during the live streams, really producing the show. That's what your role is if you're in the audience today. Just connect up with Ella, and then she'll get your comments, thoughts, and suggestions, and questions, of course, into the panel. So thank you, Mark, for making that transition. Completing our on-screen expert team today is Robert. Robert Snyder rejoins. He is, of course, the founder and president at Innovation Elegance, where as a solopreneur, he formulates strategies to help leaders combat the volatility and the uncertainty and so on that often thwart innovation and prevent them from getting things done. Always focused on building collaborative teams, Robert uses a very much people-centric approach. Welcome back to Level Up, Robert. Great to see you.
Thank you. Great to be back, Nick, for such a complex, nuanced, sophisticated topic. So delighted to be here.
Thank you very much indeed. And of course, we can't do the show without a brilliant question master. And I'm delighted to welcome back Lory Quackenbush today. She's joining us from New York over in the United States. So it's fantastic to have you as part of the panel today. And I hope, has spring arrived early or is it still very much the grip of winter?
No. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. It is 20 degrees and chilly out in New York this morning. That's why we're very bundled up today, but happy to be here. Don't forget to submit your questions through to Ella, and we're looking forward to a good show today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Well, thank you, Lory. Well, on that note, I think, you know what, we should really jump in and start with our first question to the panel, please.
Okay, very first question. Why is PMO relevant, and what is the origin of PMO? This is from Robert.
Okay, all right. Well, Robert, we might come to you in a little while. Finally, why don't you start us off on why is PMO so relevant?
It is so relevant because if you look at what changes are in organizations, whether it's a project, a portfolio, or a program, it doesn't matter. It's a lot of work and it's overwhelming for one person to do. So what a PMO does, whether it's the office or the officer, they support the one in the lead and they help them to get everything in order, as well as administrative, as in creating an environment and making sure that everything is into place and that everything is substantially elevated in quality, so that people who are governing get the chance to govern. And when the governor is not present, the PMO has the capabilities of just taking its place and just filling the role for a short while.
It's such an important thing, isn't it? When you look at human performance, it's not just about being brilliant once, it's about being brilliant time after time after time. And that repeatability of high quality, delivery is such an important factor. Let me just ask Eileen. So, Eileen, would you like to contribute?
I think the other side of that is recognizing now that I don't think there's a single organization anywhere in the world that doesn't have a concept of projects and are doing projects across their organization. And in order to do those projects well, having a consistent approach, some standard metrics and reporting around those so people can make the right decisions is absolutely essential for both the project success, but also the organization's success. And again, that reporting role, that development of best practice for delivery or best local practice for delivery is really where the kind of the center of excellence element of a PMO comes into effect. So, because we're doing more and more projects, and there's a lot of people now talking about the project economy, because there's more and more things being done as projects, then actually it's becoming more and more relevant as a role within every organization.
Thank you so much indeed. And that's a really good point to make. It is increasingly relevant across the wider organisation. So thank you very much. And Lela, your thoughts, please, on this, and then we'll go to Robert.
And to continue the discussion by Eileen, I will say that more and more projects and more need to do those projects as much as cost effectively, in alignment and on time. So as more complex those projects become, more complex decisions businesses have to make. So the PMO purpose is to make projects accomplishment to be successful and cost effective. So businesses care for projects to be completed in timely manner, first of all, cost effectively, and of course with the innovations. So the PMO is there for mainly that purpose.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Lela. Now, Robert, I kind of get a bit of an insight that you know a lot about this world, but thank you for raising the question so that we can start to baseline ourselves. Because I think, the term PMO may mean slightly different things to different folks. What are your thoughts on the relevance and the origin of the PMO?
I think that we haven't discussed yet the positive circumstances in which a company decides to have a PMO, because it means you are growing, you are innovating more. And, let's say 2 projects turns into 5, turns into 10, 2 teams turns into 5 teams, 10 teams. As your stakeholder involvement increases, to Lela's point, it's more cost effective to centralize some of those functions so that the teams are, quote, singing from the same hymnal. So I'd love to take advantage of the positive connotation that if and when a company decides to launch a PMO, it's got to be great news because you're growing and you're innovating more intensely.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a really good point, isn't it? Because it's a sort of it's the pace, I think. It's the kind of pace that picks up all of the time. I know a lot of people talk about this. They talk about, that the pace of change is accelerating and so on and so on and so on. And then it kind of feels that, you need to be able to do things not just right, but you need to be able to do it at pace and at scale and continue to get it right. So I completely agree with you there on the positive outcomes. Mark, your thoughts, please. Then I'm going to go back to Vineland.
Yeah, I think to take off of Robert, I think it's a recognition by organizations that that project management is not just a tactical effort. It is more of a strategic work that needs to have enterprise-wide visibility, engagement, and really needs to bring all of that together in one place that is not necessarily within a specific individual project.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much, Vineland. Final thoughts?
Yeah, so I was talking about the officer earlier, but I agree with Eileen that an office, a PMO in general, as being the center of all changes, of being the guardian of the procedures and processes in order to get alignment, to get the possibility not comparing apples and pears, but apples and apples. That is one of the major elements that a PMO is very good at. And therefore, everybody in that PMO has their own role and has their own specialities and specific elements that they can contribute to all the changes in the organization. So yeah, PMO is very relevant. And even with changing methodologies, the PMO shall be and will be the front runner.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that you're right there. It's right at the heart of things, and there's very much a leadership role, and we might touch on that leadership role a little bit more a little bit later on in the episode. In the meantime, though, thank you, Robert. Great question to start us off and get us underway. If I may, Lory, I'm going to ask you for the next question for the panel, please.
Absolutely. Next question is from Martina. Martina asks, how does one transition from a project management role to a PMO role?
All right. Well, this is often something which is discovered rather than perhaps necessarily planned. Mark, you've worked with lots of folks throughout your professional career. Is this a common path for people to tread? They start off in perhaps imagining or thinking that they're going to be a project manager, and then they move into the PMO.
Yeah, I think like some of us became accidental project managers. It's also possible to become an accidental PMO person. Myself, in particular, I went from project management to managing other project managers to directorship of a project management office. And it's not a requirement. I never felt that I had to do that transition, but it was definitely a natural one.
Thank you very much indeed. Lela, your thoughts, please. Then we'll go to Eileen.
In my past career, just now I am finding out that I was deputy PMO for 10 years, but I was just I had different titles, so I'm pretty happy that I figuring out that I was deputy PMO. So how to transition from PMO or from PM role to the PMO? First of all, you have to have a passion for it. It comes with a combination of, first of all, knowledge, plus skills, and the desire to join the PMO strategy, whatever the company is following. So the knowledge-wise, there are several certifications you can follow, and I'm sure we will talk more deeply about that. For skill-wise, is everywhere in the project management, in program or portfolio management, communication, stakeholder management, and adaptability skills become more and more valued. So how do you transition? You plan and step by step get certifications and even volunteer for some of the PM positions.
Thank you very much indeed. What a great approach. That sounds like a practical plan actually as well, because you can then augment the experience that you have. You can take the aptitude that you have, and you can present that as a more complete package, if you like, for that transition. So thank you, Lela. Eileen, you must see this a great deal amongst the PMO community. How do people, and what is the fluidity, if you like, and the opportunities there for people to, have more of a portfolio career? No pun intended there at all, but, to be able to.
I do find this such an amazing question, because when I started out, people would go into the PMO, and then when they grew up, they would kind of grow up to be a project manager. So people would go into the PMO to get experience of what project management was like, because it was very much supporting the project and program managers. And I think as the PMOs have become more established, there's many more opportunities. And we now find, actually, as the question says, project managers come into the PMO because they want to share their knowledge and expertise, because they want to have a greater impact of that kind of consistency about projects across the piece. So I think it really is about showing your kind of adaptability and your kind of coaching skills. But also I think is, you mentioned the word portfolio, but if you're kind of working up at kind of the portfolio office, what we're finding is people are coming into that portfolio office, not just from project management, but from business as usual, senior managers who understands how projects impact the business, who understand the organization strategy, so they can come in right at the very kind of top end to help shape the portfolio for the organization.
And I think that makes complete sense, and it also is, in my mind, and please correct me if I'm wrong in this, it might reflect the maturation of the role of the PMO, in the sense that, perhaps 30 years ago or so, it was, making a contribution. Now it seems to have a much more pivotal role around,
Absolutely.
Scope, governance, outcomes, benefit, all of these things kind of coming together into what is a very exciting collection of disciplines.
And I think it's exciting because it's still a great entry-level job, for somebody kind of just going into the world of work or kind of moving into the project world. But I think in terms of kind of where the careers are going now, with PMO, there's so much opportunity. And we're at the point now where most organizations, we always think you would never have an organization without an HR function or without a finance function. And I think we're now at the position where we don't have one without a PMO function in the organization. So, but I think we can either go in unexperienced and kind of learn and do a supportive role, or we can go in as a project manager and play a more driving role about driving project management capability in the organization.
Thank you very much indeed. Great answers. Finan, your thoughts, please, and then we're going to go to Robert.
Yeah, so the actual question is how to transition. I don't think you transition. I think it is imperative that you have a drive for getting good quality, for making projects work, for making them work better, more efficiently, etc. So it must be in yourself. But if you have project management experience or program management experience, you are eligible for a PMO role. in actual fact, here in the Netherlands, I've worked together with a local public transport company and with a very large building company. And they both said, we don't want too many starters in that PMO. We want actual experienced large program managers or senior managers, like Eileen said. We want them to be in the lead in the PMO for guarding quality, for guarding profitability, for guarding the business cases, etc. So, it's not like transitioning into it. It needs to be in your head that you want it, and then you just go and do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's changed, I think, considerably over, throughout my career, or at least what I have witnessed in my consulting background. So, really good points. Thank you very much indeed, Vinan. And Robert, final thoughts on this one.
When I pinpoint the word transition, I think of before and after. So, pursuing a role, a PMO role, the labels I put on before are fragmented. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. Lack of listening. And so transitioning into a PMO role requires curiosity. What are they doing over there that we could be learning from? It is cross-pollination. It's listening. It's harmony. And so that would be my answer is before and after. A PMO helps harmonize. And so when someone transitions into a PMO role, I think that is a culture trait that they have to be aiming for, is harmonizing.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Robert. Another great question, wasn't it? This time from Martina. So thank you very much indeed. Now then, if you're sitting in the audience, and we can see many of you now, actually, our social feed is now connected. So we had a little bit of a technical problem earlier on. So we were kind of watching the window and there's nobody there. And I'm sort of thinking, are we actually live or not? But we're very much definitely live on LinkedIn. And we can see lots and lots of you actually watching. You're all a little bit shy this afternoon. It's Friday afternoon. Spring is in the air in the Northern Hemisphere. And if you're still in the grip of winter, as our colleagues are over in New York State at the moment, then we're hoping for a better weekend for everybody. So do say hi, introduce yourselves, please, in the chat. And importantly, talk about your experience of working on projects and the vitality and the value that you get from working with colleagues in PMO, or what is it that's attracting you to explore a career in the PMO community? And what kind of role are you looking for? Are you, to Vinan's point, are you one of the more experienced people who's going to augment the talent who are already there? Or are you somebody who's earlier in their career and you're exploring this and you think, wow, this looks really great. It's a rewarding position for me to be able to shoot for. I want to understand, how do I get there and how do I secure that role? So please say hello in the chat. All right. Otherwise, we're just going to talk amongst ourselves as a panel and answer the questions that have already been submitted. And on that point, Lory, let's go to the next question, please.
Absolutely. Next question is from Adrian. It's a good one. Where does agility fit into PMOs?
Well, here's a classic question, isn't it? It's one of those, the shorter the question sometimes, panel, the longer the answer might be, because it might have a little bit of nuance around it. But anyway, Vinan, no fear here from Vinan. He's going to jump straight in and give us his thoughts. Then we're going to hear from Lela.
Yeah. Well, Nick, I've been training in agility for quite a while now. And agility doesn't mean that everything needs to be different. Agility means that you are flexible in the way that you are embracing change. And project management, program management, portfolio management is all about change. So there's no real difference in your PMO for that. The only thing is your track and tracing. Tracking and tracing in an agile world is a little bit different from tracking and tracing in the so-called traditional world, which I prefer to call detailed design of front world instead of traditional. The tracking and tracing can be done in a DDAF environment by just saying, okay, how much of my elements have I got ready and how much are in the contract and do I fulfill the contract? With Agile, it's a little bit different. How much value are we earning for our customer? How much value have we delivered from our sprints, etc.? So your tracking and tracing, your reporting might be a little bit different, but your PMO role, in actual fact, in essence, doesn't change.
Thank you very much indeed. Lela, your thoughts, please, and we're going to go to Robert.
Thank you. May I disagree a little bit and have different opinion than Winan, because I don't think and I don't see PMO as being a leader for the change management. To me, change management is completely different field, which is requires more different strategic management. And I would say the PMO is completely different sphere. And for PMO, being agile nowadays is really crucial importance. And when I talk about the agile PMO, it consists of different pillars. First of all, when we talk about standardization and the PMO having a lead in standardization, standardization in agile methodologies as well. Having agile methodologies implemented in a different projects, programs, and portfolios. One. The second is the agile mindset. We talked about it. The tools are the easiest parts to implement, but the mindset is the hardest. And the PMO has to be considered as agile and, let's say, flexible PMO, which can adjust its standards as well. And the last point, which I want to make, the third point, is agile governance. So it is very important to stay up to speed with with these changes inside of the organization and out of organization. If PMO does not have agile governance, probably it will be hard to convince stakeholders of its benefits. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much indeed. And it's really great when the panel are starting to tease out these different angles, different perceptions, about the kind of questions that we are asked. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Lela. That's great. So let's go to Robert and then we'll hear from Mark.
One interpretation of Agile is frequency. I believe a PMO aims for a different aspect of it. I'll call it low marginal cost, right? When things are decentralized and the marginal cost is high, a company has a financial incentive to centralize and reduce marginal cost. But frequency, sprints, it's not the same thing as low marginal cost. And I would add also that a skilled PMO is also fluid, where it understands that we can reverse decisions about what to centralize in a company versus what to decentralize. So there can be three different flavors of agility. One is frequency, one is low marginal cost, and one is attentiveness to change your mind about what should be centralized and decentralized.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Robert. And Mark, your thoughts, then we'll hear from Eileen.
Yeah, I think looking at this, again, going back to the more strategic look, I found when directing a PMO, as part of my team, we have visibility for the entire organization, whereas specific projects, programs, even portfolios have their components and don't see the entire picture. So I think giving that grander picture allows for that agility within the organization. So at one point, I was able to provide the C-suite folks with additional insights into the organization that allowed them to be more agile in their decisions.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mark. And final thoughts, Eileen?
I think we're one of these situations we're all divided by a common language, because as we know over the last few years, that agile and agility can be taken in many different directions. When we look at different approaches to delivery of change in an organization, so projects and programs, and whether we want to use, kind of predictive or iterative methods or whatever terminology we want to use the agile methods. One of the ways the PMO can really help is understanding and helping the organization decide on what is the most appropriate approach for delivering the changes that they need. So going back to the conversation we had previously, being custodians of the various practices that we use across our organization and recognizing and being able to advise and guide on what's most appropriate is where the PMO can add some real value.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. And that kind of, trusted status, if you like, where the PMO builds up over a period of time, is a currency which is in high demand. It's as elusive as mining for the remaining Bitcoin, if I can kind of use a very contemporaneous metaphor just right now. So how important is it, Eileen, and I come to you directly on this question, how important is it for the PMO practitioners, professionals, the organisation itself, how important is it to maintain that degree of independence so that it can offer truly trusted advice?
It is a challenge to remain independent. And I think one of the things that somewhat confuses that is there's definitely a push now for PMO managers, PMO directors, to actually look after the project managers as well. So there's a danger they have a vested interest in project delivery and individual projects. And what worries me even more is that instead of seeing those projects being accountable up to the sponsors and they own the projects, the PMO manager, the PMO director can be seen to own all of the projects in an organization. And so I think it's very important that we continue to help people understand what our contribution is to owning the project managers, providing the approaches without necessarily taking ownership for delivery for each of those projects in the organization.
Right, agreed. Absolutely right. And I think that this is the thing, isn't it? The value is high, the trust is built. And so it's a natural kind of feeling to say, okay, well, look, why don't you now own all of these resources as well and manage all of them? But it's a tricky balance, isn't it, between maintaining that degree of independence and oversight and therefore being the trusted advisor and ending up in a situation where you kind of over time have a little bit of that potentially at any rate eroded. So very good. Thank you very much indeed, Eileen. Well, let's go on. I think we'll take our next question to the panel, please. Lory, look forward to hearing what it is.
Next question is from Peter. His question is, what are some effective strategies for managing stakeholder expectations as a PMO? And we'll try to get to all the questions. Thanks for all the audience.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Mark, why don't you start us off with this one? Some effective strategies for helping to manage stakeholder expectations.
My go-to is lead with empathy. It is the one place that we can all bring our expertise, but also bring that empathy back to our sponsors, make it to the project teams, work with leadership, etc. So I think empathy is really, no matter what other framework you're working from, if you don't have the empathy, it's really hard to be effective.
Thank you very much indeed. Finan, your thoughts?
I think the point is in a lot of organizations that what you see is that people are actually not trusting you until you have proven that you can be trusted. So organizing projects is a task that the project manager has to do. And as a PMO, you're supporting that, you're guiding that, and you are delivering an overview over all projects. Like Eileen said in the previous discussion, you are overseeing all the projects, and having that overview can help you trust the other stakeholders from other projects or from the boards or whatever you are reporting to, that everything is going okay, or some are just differentiating or whatever. Just be clear be open about things that are not going as great as you would have wanted. You are not accountable for, in the end, for the projects that are running or the programs. You are just reporting and, being a consultant and an advisor for those projects.
Thank you very much indeed. Eileen, your thoughts, please.
I think this is again, the challenges of PMO can be many things, and I was discussing earlier today that the PMO can essentially be like the room of requirements in Harry Potter. It has exactly what you need just when you need it, and so it's really important to establish what the senior stakeholders want from the PMO and develop your PMO vision and say that, that's why we're here. We've got buy-in from the senior stakeholders in terms of what's actually we're going to be doing for the organization. And that has to be attuned to what's required by that organization. But then at the next level down, when we look at the PMO customers, that one of the best ways to manage people's expectations is to develop what we would call a service catalog. So be a service-based PMO. So rather than just say, we help and support projects and people come and ask you to do anything, actually having, we understand what our vision, we understand what we're here to do, and there are going to be some specific services that we're going to do in order to be able to support the organization, improve project delivery capability. So an initial vision with the key stakeholders as to why you're there, and then understand how those services help you achieve that vision for the organization.
Really interesting. That's really good approach, actually. I really like that. Thank you, Eileen. And Robert, final thoughts on this one, please.
I'm going to focus in on the term effective and contrast a couple thoughts, effective versus ineffective. I have seen an ineffective strategy where there's a lot of ambiguity about what is mandatory, what is optional, and what is improvisational. And so I believe a PMO raises its effectiveness when it is absolutely transparent and unambiguous about what is mandatory, what is optional, and what is improvised. Put it in print so that it's explicit. Explicit is not the same as rigid. You can always change your mind. So I would leave the audience with those thoughts: is distinguish mandatory, optional, improvisational, and just because you're explicit does not mean you are rigid.
Thank you very much indeed. It's certainly true. I think clarity is, also bound up in that, isn't it? If you're going to communicate, then do it. Make sure that your frequency is right and appropriate. Make sure that you're authentic in your communication and that you're speaking truth to power, if you like. I think certainly stakeholder expectations are something for all of us who are working in this world to consider and assist the whole team, with helping to not just manage those expectations, but actually sometimes, meet and exceed them, because there's a whole variety of different things that might be bound up in that question. So thank you very much, Peter, for submitting it. It's a great question to the panel. It got us all thinking, got our minds whirring, if you like. I can see quite a lot of activity actually in the social chat across the two platforms, but we are still a little bit quiet there. So it would be great to have one or two more live questions. Lory, on that front, what's our next question to the panel, please?
Sure. Our next live audience question is from Peter Hoekstra. His question is, most project leaders like to run their project as they are alone on their own island. What can you do from a PMO perspective to avoid this behavior?
Okay, other than put a message in a bottle, of course. That's a little visualization for you. And Peter, thank you very much for your contribution in the chat today, by the way, because you're a regular, I know, contributor to the Level Up community. And it's how we all learn is through questions, right? So asking a great question. And this is a truly great question. So Lela, if I may, I'm going to come to you first, and then we're going to hear from Vinan.
It's excellent continuation of the previous question about the expectation management. As it seems, Peter is a stakeholder and the project leader has not really managed the expectations. So what we can do to have the matching of the expectations of the PMO lead and the stakeholder. Currently, I'm working with one of the largest municipalities in Georgia and building the PMO. And all the department and functional leads right now have their own projects, and they care for their projects as if the projects were their babies. And I really do understand the frustration when somebody's coming and questioning the about your project, how it's going. So the first step probably we need to start with this question is to really show the empathy for those project leaders, because they are going a lot through the lots of challenges to make the project success. The next step, we need to refer to the standards. If we have the standardization and process and procedures in places, they will minimize risk of the behaviors, Peter, you are mentioning. So we will have set up expectations in the communication plans or in the reporting systems. What tools or what metrics should we exercise to see how the project is ongoing? And also we have to emphasize from the side of the project leader that they need some time to actually execute the project. And third pillar, which I see to have a crucial importance, is the transparency. And we all talk about the communication need and how important it is for the PMO. But transparency is the key for the agility. So it is all interlinked and interconnected. So probably the transparency, we start with ourselves and be transparent about our expectations, what we expect from the project, how to prevent it, probably set up the standards and policies, procedures first in place.
Thank you very much indeed. Eileen, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Robert.
Yeah, so I think Peter is a fellow Dutchman because it is something that is very common in the Netherlands, that people think, project managers think that the project is their project. This is a very common mistake. The project is not their project. It's something that you do for the organization, and there's somebody on top of the food chain, which is called the sponsor or the executive or whatever you may call it. But that is the person that has the need for the solution that you are building within your project. So as a PMO, this is one of the first things that you may have to make clear. You're not alone in this world. Your project is not standalone. Your project is going to run within the total of the organization, needs people from the organization. So you need to work together with the organization in order to run your project. If you just keep on your island, you stay on your island and you don't communicate with anybody, then you can't expect them to deliver what you need for your project whenever you need it. As a PMO, you are not responsible for finding resources or finding finance or whatever. Your sponsor is, your executive is, or your project board is. So things like that, you need to explain. And as a PMO, you are guarding that transparency and that way of communicating. And yes, Lela, I agree with you. It's all about communicating and collaborating with your stakeholders. And as a project manager, if you want to succeed, you need to be able to collaborate and lead.
Completely agree with that. I think it was to not quite paraphrase the movie Saving Private Ryan, but I have a feeling that Tom Hanks's character reminded his colleagues that his company was not his, actually belonged to the US Army, and he was happy to hand it back for a different mission. And we should remember that a little bit, kind of True. As we think about things. So thank you very much, Eileen. Robert, your thoughts, please, and then we'll go to hear from Eileen.
I think there are three common deliverables that help reduce the feeling of being on their own island. Number one, a roadmap that shows that every project is one of X that are in flight or about to launch. So a roadmap is a critical tool to avoid anyone, quote, being on their own island. The second tool are status reports. Imagine 5 projects that are all in flight. imagine them needing to share their status reports with each other on a weekly basis. I think that's a great habit and a great rhythm to reinforce no one is on their own island. And also the third tool would be the project plan to understand where are resources shared, where might there be a collision, a contention, a bottleneck. So those three tools can be instrumental to minimize siloed work, roadmap, status reports, and the project plan itself.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. Eileen, your thoughts, please.
I think I'm going to go on a completely different tack to this one, to perhaps some of the questions that have taken place beforehand. When we wrote the competency framework, one of the things that we embedded in every competence was to help the project manager succeed, was against every single competence. And I think we have to just kind of beware that we don't end up being the PMO police, where we stand there with our big truncheon hitting the project managers over the head because they kind of put a toe out of line. So I think there's a really interesting kind of conversation to be had at the beginning of any project or program, because we often mistake project and program managers of those people who've been really organized and structured. And actually, to develop effectively and efficiently, we want innovation. We want them to think outside the box. And what the PMO is there to do is to help you stay within the guardrails of the risk appetite of the organization. Now, you know, all of the things we've talked about in terms of roadmaps, status reports, etc., status reports is because we just want to check they're within the guidelines and the road, to keep us going completely off track that would knock the rest of the organization off track. So I think there's a great role for the PMO to work with some of the more some of the project and program managers that kind of sit on the outside and who want to be their own islands and say, well, actually, work with us and we'll help you and give you the freedom as much as we can to do the things that you're really good at. And we will provide help and support to do those other things that perhaps we know to get all of the reports and information we need to report back to the rest of the organization. So I think we can be a real ally to those project managers.
It's a great place to start, isn't it? Let's always think about what we can do, what we can do all of the time, and help people see and align, with that greater good, if you like. Because I think you're spot on, Eileen. I think all that happens is the nature of project managers sometimes imagine their superpower sometimes is to just get things done at any cost. And I think we've all experienced in the past, that kind of project management. It's quite brutal, actually. So from time to time, and it usually doesn't end that well. So for anybody, I think it's good that we engage on a positive sense and we try and help other people kind of elevate their performance to that. So thank you very much indeed, Lory. If we can, time is kind of pushing against us hard. Let's take our next question to the panel, please.
I'm sorry, I won't get to all the questions, but thank you for them. So the next question is from Meredith. Meredith asks, what qualifications or certifications are necessary to become a PMO in 2024?
It's a good question, Meredith. Thank you for asking it. So we've got a real blend here, haven't we, from the panel so far around thinking about that experience and bringing your experience to the PMO. But there's also some structured learning that may well help you in your career path as well. Eileen, you're right at the heart of architecting that structured learning. Why don't you start us off and then we'll hear from Vinan.
Okay, so I think there's two ways you can approach your certification. Firstly is looking at what a PMO does and how to set up the PMO office itself, which is the best management practice by Axelos is the P3O certification. So that's project, program, and portfolio officers. And that looks specifically in how to design, build, and work within one. And then what the House of PMO have done to complement that is to say, well, actually, what level role do you want to go in at? Do you want to go in at that administrator level, the analyst level, the manager level, or the director level? And we've created 4 certifications which are available worldwide with ATOs through APM certification around the essentials that you need in order to do each of those roles. So if you've been a project manager for several years and you're going in as a PMO manager, then essentials for PMO manager will give you that additional kind of knowledge and skills you need to go in at that level.
Thank you very much. I mean, I'm going to kind of paraphrase it back to you, and I've got this phrase in my head that within the PMO, within the House of PMO, and within the framework, it feels to me like there's something for everybody in there, from the newly hired all of the way through to the most experienced people who are late career and, considering, stepping back a little bit and reducing their hours and so on. So really great. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you to you and your colleagues and everybody in the House of PMO professional community who's been helping to craft that, because it's very much practitioner led and, built on the community to serve the community. I know that's right at the heart of it. So thank you very much indeed. Let's take, if we can, some thoughts then from Vinant, and then we're going to hear from Lela.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the different approach from Eileen, because it's very good if you set up a PMO to go from the Axels or people sort of what it's called now certification. But if you want to work in a PMO or work as a support officer in a project program or portfolio, then it is a good idea of at least having the certifications of a project manager, portfolio manager, or program manager. So you could do with certification for Praxis or Prince2 or MSP, things like that. Or you can go the IPMA way. So just do a PMO training on D and C level. And then you are working as a support officer within, in the field actually, governed by the PMO that Eileen mentioned, based on P3O.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Vinant. And Lela, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. First of all, it depends on the structure and context of the PMO. Is it public or private sector? What role you are stepping in? Is it the beginner, administrator, analytics, the manager or director? Different roles you may be taking, but the bachelor's degree is completely recommended. Then the strong knowledge of the project management strategies and methodologies is the requirement. But to increase the professional experience, I would still recommend to go with the volunteering and practicing any role at the PMO, so you have a feel, do you really want it? For that, for the knowledge base, you can reach APMG, you can use PMI resources for the PMO certification. So there are lots of good resources for that.
You're absolutely right. I think that volunteering is a great way, isn't it, to be able to, work alongside others. And when you walk and work alongside others, they will see the contribution that you're bringing and where your talents lie, and they're much more likely to be able to support, mentor and coach, you. And that way as well, you kind of get ahead of the game. When there is an opening and you feel that it's a good fit for your next step in your career, you're more likely to be recommended because you volunteered previously. So it's all in all a great way to go about things. Very good. Well, I think, Lory, we've got time for one last question to the panel, if we are fairly quick.
Sure. One more question, and thanks again for the audience. The last question is from Lisa. Are there any communities, free or otherwise, you recommend connecting with to learn more about PMOs?
All right. So, Mark, why don't you start us off? You've built several communities actually through your career, great contributor to communities. What are your thoughts on this? What would you recommend?
Yeah, in terms of communities, there's really two ways of looking at it. There's the external communities. I personally have gotten very involved with those folks on LinkedIn. It has been a real great asset to connect with other project leaders, PMO leaders, et cetera. Within the organization themselves, once you have that trusted respect of the organization, need to build on that, need to be able to be seen by the executives in ways that they'll bring you in as part of their community, not necessarily your own. It's not uncommon for me to be pulled into operational changes as a PMO leader, where they're saying, we know we don't have a specific project that you're asking to do, but we would like to have your input into that work. And that goes to that larger, I don't have to have a project specific or portfolio or program specific piece, but I do have the ability to have access to the right folks.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Indeed. Thank you, Mark. Eileen, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Lela.
Just very quickly, as you mentioned at the top of the hour, we set up a professional body for PMO people, whatever level you work in the PMO, at www.houseofpmo.com, and there is a free membership available as well as some paid membership and different benefits. But there's a whole load of resources and a great network and community of people who are very helpful and supportive.
Thank you very much indeed, and I know how valuable that community space actually is. It's very much a safe space, so there are no questions that professional questions that you should feel that you can't ask in that community. Always welcoming, always very supportive. Thank you very much indeed, Eileen. And Lela, final thoughts.
Final thought, we talk about adaptability and need to be adaptive. For that, I would recommend everybody to join the communities that we are not very acquainted with. What I mean, for example, I am a PMI Tbilisi, Georgia co-founder, but I'm always interested in other communities, other project management communities, to hear from them and to be engaged. And so it really enriches, and it is connected to the mental flexibility, we say. From another perspective, not all the people have a privilege to attend all the physical community events. Of course, they are very valuable, the workshops, conferences, but don't think that you are missing something because you have abilities through even LinkedIn to be connected with the hundreds of the PMO leads. So take this opportunity to connect with the PMO people you are interested in. And there are three huge LinkedIn communities I'm always following and asking questions. The one is the PMO, Project Management Office. It has 312,000 members. Why don't you just take and go ask questions and just volunteer for something? And another one is just Project Management, PMO, PMI, PMP, Kanban program community. It has 98,000 members. So another one is Project Management Link. Still interesting because this is the community. And the last one is PMI Project Program and Portfolio Management Group. It's also a very good source. And I would encourage everybody, put your thoughts there and just be interactive, be open. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, Lela. Well, time has beaten us a little. In fact, we're going to run just over the hour. But nonetheless, it's very interesting, deeper dive today into the world of PMO, the roles, the responsibilities, how to join, how to perform, and the value that it all brings. So let's hear some closing remarks from the panel, if we can. Eileen, I'll come to you first, and then we'll go to Mark.
Well, it always warms my heart when we look at people who are becoming more and more interested in PMO. So today's been a great session. And I would just say, if you are interested in becoming part of a PMO, then last year we introduced International PMO Day. So on the 20th of May, just go and search for International PMO Day on the interweb, and you'll notice that there's a whole range of communities are coming together to celebrate International PMO Day.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to pop that into my calendar. Mark, your thoughts, please, and then we'll hear from Lela.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank the panel for welcoming me into my first. It was more than I expected, and it's really fantastic to be part of this group. So thank you, Nick and panel.
Well, indeed, Mark, thank you too for the contribution that you've brought today, and to make that transition from, being online as part of the production team, asking the questions, to actually having a go at answering some as well. You did a great job. So thank you very much indeed. Lela, your thoughts, please. Then we'll hear from Robert.
It's very interesting topic and active topic. And I see in the future we will be discussing this topic more and more as a PMO's role for the organization and for the innovation and for the artificial intelligence, because more projects, more change, and more knowledge will be required for that. So thank you for having me on this panel and for having this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Robert, and then Vian.
I love this topic of PMO because it does resurrect that term servant leader, which I feel has faded in the past decade. And although in this session I didn't get to talk about the performing arts at all, the art of parenting has a lot to teach us about servant leadership, where good parents know the difference between bang the table leadership and set the table leadership. And I think PMOs do the same thing. Attentive PMOs are great at weaving between bang the table leadership and set the table leadership. And so I'm delighted to have been a part of this, where I feel it's a quite advanced, nuanced, sophisticated topic. So just thanks to the panelists and Nick and Lory for orchestrating this. It was very fun.
No, thanks very much indeed, Robert. I've written that one down, actually. We're going to post that into the social chat as well. Know the difference between bang the table leadership and set the table leadership. Fantastic. So excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Robert. Vian, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Lory.
Yeah, so I'm very delighted to hear from all the panelists that PMO is still kicking and very much alive. I know it's the other way around in the song, but a few years ago there was a lot of talk when Agile became a hot topic that PMOs would disappear and they wouldn't be necessary anymore, and there wouldn't be any projects or programs. Well, I guess you were wrong, everybody who said that. It is actually the best job that you can have. You are as a spider in the web. You control things, you can pull strings, and you can be the one that can help your organization or the organization that you are assigned to become better and more flexible and more efficient. Be there.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. I totally agree with you. It's an exciting, engaging, and rewarding career for sure. Lory, it's been all of those things today and a little bit more. Have we warmed you up a little in the frozen wastes of New York?
Absolutely. I'm nice and toasty now. Just want to say thank you so much. What a great show. And I can't thank the audience enough for some phenomenal questions. And I'm sorry we didn't get to them all. But great show, great group of panelists. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, producers online, thank you for your questions. I know that we've got a couple of folks, Aaron included, actually. Big shout out to you, Aaron. Thank you for submitting them. We will get to them, but unfortunately we have run out of road a little bit today. But we'll pick them up and we'll carry them over into a future episode. So do stay with us to see all of that happening. On behalf of our producers online panel, thank you very much indeed. Great contribution as ever today. We've learned a lot. And if you would like, and you're watching the panel on YouTube or on LinkedIn, you can find links to all of our LinkedIn profiles actually on the apmginternational.com website. So do hop over there into the events page and click on the little link and connect with us professionally. We're all open to doing exactly that. So please do take us up on that offer. Thank you very much indeed, producers, for your brilliant questions. You've done a fantastic job today as well. Now then, over on our website, you may, of course, search for the answers to more than 2,300 questions that have been previously asked on Level Up. It's totally free of charge and it connects you with experts just like the folks that you've witnessed today from all over the world. And you may also listen to the audio versions of the shows on your preferred podcast platform. So just search for APMG International, Level Up Your Career, and you'll find us easily enough. Now, next week, coming up on Monday the 25th, we're going to explore the world of business analysts. What do they do and how do they do it? And why do they have so much fun at doing it as well? It's a fantastic career role. And that show is definitely not to be missed. Before Friday, the 5th of April, well, we're going to be looking at developing your career as a change management professional. Now, if you're an hour early, that's because we've put our clocks forward, or even you may be an hour late. So don't forget, the UK shifts out of GMT and into British summertime on the weekend of the 31st. All right, so do have a little think about that so that you can prepare for the show on the 5th of April. All right, then. Very good. On that note, do head over to our YouTube channel if you can. Give this video a like and subscribe. It really does help other people to discover our content. And if you would like, we can send you a personal summary of what's coming up on Level Up and how you too can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you next time.